Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending, of course, on when and where you are joining us from. This is the EPN podcast, a podcast that's been designed to demystify the sales profession and hopefully remove some of the stigma that is associated with it. Now, we're looking to do that by speaking with various salespeople, sales leaders, who will share a little bit more about their journey in sales so far, and hopefully share some tips, tricks, and insight throughout. Now, today we are joined by Richard Schenzel. I want to say, have I pronounced that right, Richard?
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay, close enough. He's the MD of Northern Europe at AtScale, where he helps to enable companies to build scalable sales machines by focusing on process, go-to-market strategies, and of course, execution. Now, thank you very much for joining me today, Richard. Did you want to take a minute to introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. My name is Richard Schenzel. Indeed, last name can be complicated, so you are excused. I listen to a lot of variations of that. I'm working for a company called AtScale, where we are helping founders and CEOs to structure a commercial organization, indeed, to ultimately increase sales performance. We are a group of operating partners with strong backgrounds in sales, VP sales, former CROs, helping founders to bring our knowledge and to basically implement it as well. Not just that we share it as advisors, but we are there to basically co-execute together with founders as well.
Fantastic. And how did you get into sales? What was it that initially sort of piqued your interest?
Well, it's a long time ago. Kind of in a previous life, I was working in the hotel industry and hospitality industry, mainly for meetings and business events. I started there actually as an intern for online marketing back in the days. We are talking about the days where businesses were trying to find out what to do with Facebook and how to use it in their advantage. So a long time ago. And when my internship came to an end, they asked me about my career, like aspirations. And I was always intrigued by the sales guys there. It was very interesting to see how they were selling business events or at our location or our venue to companies to get their events together with us. So for me, it was like why it sparked my interest, because that's how I had got a different approach to sales, or a different vision on sales, because over there was sitting down with event managers, with companies that had an event. Could be a car launch, a project launch, could be a gala dinner, could be a celebration of the company internally. And it was really about sitting down with them to fully understand what's going on there, what they would like to achieve, and then co-design those events. And for me, that was, I always saw sales with car salesmen, like try to sell something to people that don't really want it. And then I saw like a different side of it, where it was more like about co-designing, or really about it, like discovery, qualification, and then tailoring your offering towards the needs. And that like sparked my interest, and that was like where it actually started.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. I think there's countless Hollywood films that depict salespeople as this really slimy, conniving sort of characters. But when you do see how beneficial it can be, how mutually beneficial it can be when you take that more consultative approach, and how fulfilling a career it can be.
Absolutely. Yeah, correct.
Indeed. Now, I imagine there were a number of challenges that you faced throughout your career. Are there any that stand out during those early days, and how did you manage to overcome them?
Absolutely. Like if I think about my onboarding, it was literally less than 1 minute. It was like, here's your laptop, this is your territory, this is your target, and here are your car keys.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck. Yeah, like literally like that. And I was like, okay, wow, what's this? And it felt a little bit painful, or I felt lost in the beginning. But it was really clear that I had to figure it out myself, and that I had to surround myself with people that had the experience. And it was like you had the feeling to do things like on your own in the beginning. But then I quickly realized I need to find mentors. I need to find experienced people, high performers around me to help me out. And this is, I think, has been the theme my entire career. And I think that's something that was very clear for me at the start, and it really helped me as well. I was in a fortunate situation where I had two colleagues that were super experienced and keen to help me as well. So in the beginning was more about like shadowing, asking for feedback on calls, on meetings, on proposals, etc., and really leave your ego at the door and seek for help. And even later on, every company I started or every like new situation I get into, I'm always trying to find more successful people, more experienced people than I am, just to surround myself, to absorb information and to find out how I could do this differently. And that always helped me. So basically the lack of onboarding that I had at the beginning, and I had to like do everything myself, helped me the rest of my career to constantly seek for more experienced and more knowledgeable people around me to share challenges, back press, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a great point that your network is your net worth, and that's not necessarily, your black book solely. It's who is that support network that you can turn to, that you can use as a sounding board, that you can brainstorm ideas with. I don't think I don't think there really is a challenge that hasn't been faced before by someone.
100%. Yeah. And you will be surprised how open people can be about their challenges and what they've done in the past, and to learn from their mistakes. It would be stupid to make the same mistake all over again. And that's something that I've been seeking the rest of my career up to today. Like I'm still part of a lot of networking groups just to learn from people. And there are people that are maybe 10, 15 years ahead of the game for me, and people that just started. So I think it's important to learn from both sides. Because you get a lot of fresh ideas from people that just started, and they're just super innovative and creative about things. And then people that are more experienced, indeed, what you said, there's not a single challenge that's not faced before. So why should you do that all by yourself? And try to surround yourself with people, meet people almost on a weekly basis, people that you've never met before, and ask questions like, what has been your biggest challenge? What is your key learning in your career? What if you could do it again? What would you do differently, etc.?
Yeah, it's a really good point, having that mix, because as you said, the experience that have gone through those tough days, but then those more junior reps that are on the front line. And I think that's one of the things that excites me most about being in sales, is that we are on the front line for any business that we work for. So the benefits of that is we can identify new trends in the market, any changes. Now, the downside is that obviously we then most harshly feel the brunt of those changes or shifts in buyer behaviors. Have you got any best practices on how to stay adaptable and consistently striving for success during those periods of drastic change?
Yeah, I think it's one of those cheesy lines, but the only constant is change. And I think we need to feel comfortable with that. And it starts basically with staying up to date with the market you're working with. Be genuinely interested in what's going on in their world, in the buyer's world. And don't expect that anything is going to stay the same. Like anything can happen and then things will change. So it's important that you stay close to the market, not just to sell. And that's why it's super important to go to industry events as well, or read at least industry news during your calls. It's a moment for you to get feedback from the market as well. It's not always the opportunity to sell, but be buyer obsessed. Make sure that you completely understand what is changing in the market, what are the main challenges, and build a feedback loop internally as well, to collect and store industry news, industry updates, the knowledge in itself, because it's super important that you stay in touch with the market. You are indeed the front line, and you are a very important player in the product development, probably as well.
Yeah.
If we are talking about ICPs or ideal customer profiles, it's not just for sales. It's It's for the entire company. And if you are completely clear on this industry and the buyer persona, you could create a roadmap for your marketing team, for your sales team, for your product team as well. Because if that's not aligned and things are changing, everybody's going to do it on their same, in a different fashion. It's going to be patchwork and it's going to be very creative. So make sure that you have a good feedback loop internally as well for all your departments to understand what's going on there. And again, like be buyer obsessed, have the full understanding of what's going on, and don't treat your interactions like calls, etc., meetings with your prospects purely to push your products. But what I said in the beginning already is like it's about co-designing a solution, but it's about having that understanding of the market as well.
Yeah, certainly. There's a few interesting points there to unpack. I think initially the alignment between those different teams within the go-to-market motion is absolutely critical, driving that unified go-to-market motion to really sort of have a cumulative impact and maximize that impact, which is great. And I think you might have sort of answered my next question there, but what are those key skill sets that you typically look for in sales reps when you're building teams, or perhaps, what are those top reps doing that is setting them apart from the rest in your eyes?
Yeah, I think it really varies. I always assess people on like 4 dimensions or 4 pillars before hiring. That's mainly, and it's used by multiple tech companies, the 4 pillars. It's more around the role alignment, intellectual horsepower, leadership, and cultural add. Why do we say cultural add? Because you see a lot of companies use cultural alignment or cultural fit. But what I've seen over time is that you end up hiring a lot of mini-me's. I think diversity in the team is very important to learn from each other as well, because everybody has another perspective on the market, on the product, on the go-to-market. So it's good to collect that feedback from multiple angles, because your buyer persona will be diverse as well.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Role alignment is someone able to do the job. And that's about, for me, active listening, communication skills, sales techniques, or structured sales process. Mainly coachable, most of the areas. So for me, it's not even the most important thing, hiring someone. For me, the intellectual horsepower and leadership are very important. It's the ability and eagerness to learn, the curiosity, the ability to translate complex ideas into simple language, self-reflection in terms of leadership. Is there someone able to take initiative outside comfort zone, ability to elevate others, and not just someone who's kind of alone and celebrates his or her own success, unites people, perseverance and resilience. Like it's not always flying on a high in sales, so you need to be perseverance in that sense as well, and humility. I think with those elements, if you have a genuine interest and if you have that eagerness to learn, not only for yourself, but about market as well, that curiosity, those are some very important traits that I'm looking for in someone. If someone doesn't have that, it still could be a good salesperson, but then you start to think about those flashy, shiny salespeople that you see in those movies where you were talking about before. But it's more about like, are people able to learn? Are they eager to learn? Are they genuinely interested? That these are very important traits.
Yeah, I completely agree. On another episode of the podcast that I filmed with a chap called Jordan, great name. Yeah, he was talking about the importance of assuming that next role, and by that he meant, what can he do outside of his job description that would be that next role that he's looking for, so that one, to show his bosses that he can do the job, but also to really help his personal and professional development by doing those things, by learning from those leaders, those other people in the team that are really smashing it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, I want to move on to the advice portion of the session. I'm sure there's been some great pieces of advice that you've both given and received. But what is the best piece of advice that you've been given throughout your career?
Yeah, for me, it's more like echoing what I've said before, but I think it's that one of those lines like never be the smartest person in the room, and always seek for a room where you have more knowledgeable, more experienced, smarter people around you. That's for me for constant development. Then something that I figured out along the way as well. Someone told me, it's like you should start listening to understand and not to respond. And I think a lot of salespeople do have their playbook ready, their objection handling ready, and just ask questions to respond. And I think it's always important to listen to understand, so you can unpack what's behind it. I think it's from like one of those white papers from Gong, or like one pages where they look at it as an onion. It's like a lot of statements or objections or situations are quite layered, and for you it's just to dig deeper and unpack what's really going on there before you actually come up with a solution. And then later on, when I stepped into leadership, for me it was like step back to step up. Someone told me this once. We get caught up in the washing machine, like it's constantly rolling. And sometimes we forget about what's going on. We have our head down, and we forget about what is actually going on in our world. And sometimes we get caught up in the day-to-day. And I think it's very important to have like frequently moments where you step back just to have a look at the overall situation. What is actually going on? What am I doing? What is going well? What could be improved? And then change and course correct, basically. So step back to step up is a very important one, because we can get caught up in the day-to-day too much. There's always a new month or a new quarter. You're always as good as your last month or quarter or your last achievement. So we are like constantly on the run. And I think it's very important to step back once in a while to find out, hey, to have that helicopter view again. Where are we, and what do I need to do differently? So it's a reflection part.
Yeah, I love that. There's always something else to be done in sales. So by getting caught in that sort of hamster wheel, it can breed a bit of a myopic view. So lifting your head and just assessing, reflecting on what's been good, what hasn't been good. That's been something that has been really helpful as I've been settling into my new role, where I'm learning a lot. Just sort of take a second on a Friday at the end of the week to review the week. Okay, what have I learned? What have I tried differently? What can I do differently next week? Right, to move forward from that.
Yep.
And I think you really nicely answered my next question, which was about you're one step ahead. It was about best habits for continuous professional and personal development. And I think, surround yourself with great people and really actively listen to understand, and don't be scared to ask questions equally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, my last question was, what piece of advice would you give to anyone that's listening that have either just started on their sales journey or might be considering a career in sales?
Two different target groups. Let's start with the one that is thinking about it or curious to start a journey in sales. I would definitely recommend it, because in the end of the day, sales is everywhere. Any meeting, any boardroom, whatever department you're in, you always need to sell something. So it's a good skill to have, or to at least to learn more about. So if you're thinking about it, get into it. Surround yourself with very successful people and learn about it. Even if you want to do it for maybe 6 months or a year or 2 years, just to get the hang of it, it's a very important skill. So if you're thinking about it, do it. Stop thinking, just do it. That's step one. Then the people that just started, I think one thing that you should understand is what we said before. We can get caught up in the day-to-day. The highs are really high. The lows can be very low as well. So One thing that I at some point found out, or someone said to me, it's like, you win or you learn. You can't lose. You learn, and I think that's something that that's how you should look at it, because that helps you as well to keep on progressing. And yeah, can't say it enough, but surround yourself with high performance on your own level, but at least one level above you as well, to understand what you should do and how you can make that step into the next role. Absorb information in the beginning, be like a sponge, and get as much knowledge, experience as you can. I think these are the most important things. And enjoy the ride as well. I see a lot of people that are really keen to step in to a next role, to become a leader or whatsoever, which is very interesting, because then you can make an impact on multiple people. But on the other hand, enjoy the ride as well. It's a very, very cool profession. And when I think about my time as an individual contributor, I had a great time, especially with my team. So build a team together and celebrate success together. But even if times are tough, just grab a colleague for lunch or a coffee just to vent. And for people that just started, if you are at a company where you have an office, because I know remote work and completely flex work is quite popular right now, but especially in the beginning of your career, be at the office. What I said before, absorb the information, but go there, meet the people, listen to them. Because I've seen how important it can be to be surrounded by successful people, and you are almost as good as your neighbor. At home, there's most probably nobody sitting next to you, and nobody has ever been successful. So make sure that you go to the office to find those top performers, sit next to them, listen how they work, how they structure their day, how they structure their outreach, etc., and learn from them.
Yeah, it's such an interesting point. I was reading a bit of research a little while back now, but it actually found that by sitting next to top performers, your productivity increases by 10% on average.
100%.
But then on the flip side, if you're surrounded by in a sort of toxic environment, it actually has a detrimental effect. So
yeah,
it's really about finding and surrounding yourself with those great people, as you mentioned.
Yeah. 100%.
Richard, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. If anyone did want to reach out, is LinkedIn the best place?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Perfect. Richard, I will let you get on with your day. To everyone else, until next time.
Thanks a lot.